Welcome to the Nutmeg Tavern. We are live, and it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. Welcome on into the tavern here. Have a seat. Come along in. I hope you are having a wonderful Friday. We are having a great Friday. We've got lots of stuff done today. Had an incredible week, and we got some fun stuff to talk about today. We are joined behind the bar is Ryan.
Whoa, hey.
There's Ryan. Ooh, are you adjusting me?
Hello,
Am I moving?
everyone. When he does stuff, you're not supposed to talk about it.
Oh, sorry. That's Ryan. He's behind the bar. He's making the drinks today.
Yeah.
On the other side of the time warp, in that whatever futuristic land you probably live in, Aaron is on the console.
Hello.
He's dealing with all those special machines that you guys got in the future, making sure they work and do all the right things. And then Kyle he's in the hot seat in the chat room and all that good stuff, looking for questions. If you've got questions, and you always do, great questions, he's going to be fielding them, gathering them up, collating them, and then sending them to me.
Oh, yes. The hot seat is very hot right now.
In the chat room.
Haven't
Heard of a chat room in a long time. Well,
Chat room.
I guess I won't hear about that for a long time.
Whatever.
Still.
Open up your Netscape browser. And
Log into
get in the
AOL.
chat room.
These guys. They're always
already,
causing me
let's go.
trouble. What do we got here, Ryan? It's bubbling. Is that a good thing? Does it need stirred?
That's a stone fence.
It's a stone
That's a stone fence.
It looks liquidy. Usually stone fences are made of stone.
That's
This
a stone
one's
fence.
not. Let's find out. It's a liquid.
Smooth.
Yeah, smooth.
For you folks at home, we'll talk about the stone fence in a little while, but if you've got any kind
You know,
of hard
it's
cider
It's
and
missing
rum,
something.
you can have a stone fence with us right now. Go, run to the refrigerator.
A little bit of nutmeg is what you need on top of that.
I believe that.
So much better. So Ryan and I were on the road this week. Quick flying trip. I love doing these sort of like, Friday afternoon. I think we ought to go to Virginia. And then it's like we get in the van and go to Virginia. Ryan and I did a flying trip down to Martin Station, down at the Wilderness Road State Park. Right there at the Cumberland Gap, where Kentucky, Tennessee, Virginia, they all kind of come together. And the Martin Station site is just, the people there, the site, it's all wonderful. Everyone's got this great, information. Billy Heck is down there. And of course, it's always fun. And we always have fun when we go there. And it's so beautiful. I just love that spot, those mountains and the fort behind it and everything.
It's got this ridge that's just like
it's
beautiful,
just,
and it's just right there.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Anyway, so we're there. We met with what is it, David Caudle and Nate. What was Nate's last name?
I don't remember
Dope.
Nate's last
And
name
Nate,
right now. It's written down.
along with D. Hertzig.
Hertzig.
Yeah, so we did some videos down there. Incredible. Special thanks to the folks down at Martin Station. You guys will be seeing videos soon. Oh, not Monday, right? Yes, Monday. Monday's cooking episode. We shot down there at Martin Station. So lots of fun. You guys are all pointing and stuff. Anyway, that was an incredible fun trip, and we needed some information. I wanted more information about the cabin building, and so we went down there because they've dealt with that kind of construction for years. Billy Heck built, with lots of help from volunteers, they actually built the fort and cabins some 20 years ago, 18 years ago. The fort itself was constructed, and since then they've had to do all the upkeep. They've had to actually do all this upkeep, as well as they did all the building at that time. It's like
The bar floor is very sticky.
This is mine?
anyway, they had all the information. I wanted to get some real experience. So we went down there and we got some great information. David was just so helpful with information down there. So again, thanks. And you will start to see some of those Martin Station videos coming up very shortly. What else do I need to talk about, Ryan? He's too busy being behind the bar.
I had to count up to 2.
Okay. How about this? Kyle, do you have a question for us?
I do. Let's see. This first one says, how did the captain and the sailors heat up the ship and the great cabin at the stern?
How did they heat it up? Like if it was cold? They were cold. That's straight up. Occasionally they had little kind of stoves that they might be able to heat up a cabin. And, that might be a situation that the captain would do. Very rarely anybody else. And fire on board ship, is very, very dangerous. So those sorts of things typically weren't done. They just wore lots of clothes and they dealt with it being cold. That happens even in standard living situations with most people. There of course there are rooms, the kitchen, and maybe some other rooms with a fireplace. Many times there weren't any other fireplaces, and that heat did not get into the rest of the house. Being cold in the winter is very, very typical. People just wore more clothing.
Hey, real quick, if you're frozen, just refresh your browser.
We've been having issues with that. A lot of people have been having kind of
yeah, and the tough thing
sticking-
is everything on our end is looking good, so it's hard to determine where that's coming from. It might be your connection. I'm not sure.
If you have issues with your live stream, try hitting F5. I know I'm on this side, right? Control R, whatever those things. I don't know, magic words that people told me.
Another thing you can do is change your quality to like 480p as
Or
opposed to
auto.
1080p or auto. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. This next question says, what did 18th century taverns look like from the outside?
Ooh.
Their layout, brickwork, etc.
There are a lot of different types of tavern-type structures, but they're going to look like pretty much any other structure except maybe a little bit larger if it's made for that purpose. There's a great book. I think it's probably 19th century, maybe early 20th century, and it talks about taverns, I think in Boston, and they have lots of little drawings of the outsides of these taverns while they were still there. So that book is available. I would have to dig around and find a link for that, but that is available out there. They just, in many times, just look like very large houses. But there is some documentation on that. So I would check around for that. I'll try to find a link. If I can, I'll put it in the description section of this video so that you can look at it, in a day or so and maybe find that link.
What's the biggest surprise so far in cabin construction?
What do you think, guys? What's the biggest surprise? Nobody has a good answer. My biggest surprise so far is it's taken a lot longer than I planned for. Maybe that's because we only have like 3 or 4 people working on it at a time, but it's taken us a lot of time to get where I wanted to be with this thing. So in our circumstance, in this case, winter's closing in. If we were living out there, it would be like, okay, time to really push, guys, because you can't do all these things we need to do in the wintertime. We've got to seal this thing up. We've got to build a fireplace. We've got to get the chimney done. So it's push right now to get this done before the weather changes and makes it almost impossible to do the work. I cannot imagine what it would have been like for Washington's Army, 1777, I think. They get to Valley Forge Christmas Day. Hey guys, build a town of log cabins. Go. 2 weeks later, 2,000 cabins were built, and these men were living in these cabins, little barrack structures that they built, basically exactly like what we're doing. with probably a lot fewer tools than we had. Maybe a whole lot more people, but a lot fewer tools. And they would have had to bring those logs by hand for a much larger distance. I don't know. It is amazing.
I think that surprises me the most are how many different ways you can go about doing any given task, right? Whether you're notching or if you're choosing roof materials or the way that you're going to roof it, there are lots of ways to skin that cat. But depending on where the folks are coming from and what you're trying to recreate, you are kind of locked into what they were doing at the time.
Yeah, and they even had little contests for the people as they're building it. Different people had different ideas, and who could come up with the best way of doing, X. You guys have any ideas?
Me personally, I'm not really surprised by much because I've never built one before. So,
Sure.
What is to be surprised about?
There you go.
It is funny how much, because we've built an open face.
Yeah.
It wasn't as tall or as big, but it's crazy how much extra work out in that fourth wall and getting everything to lock in and be level, because you can, with an open face, you can just kind of fudge some of that stuff. But when you want things to be level, and it takes a lot more work.
It does.
Does it kind of make you look at some of the accounts of cabin building back in the day? The people who are like, "Oh, we did it in a day," and it's kind of like,
I think history is full of a bunch of liars.
I'm not sure that when you see that, I'm trying to figure out exactly where those references are to that day. I think that most of the time, that's somebody who actually isn't doing it, but they're saying, "Oh, they could have built it in a day," or it looked like they built it in a day. They didn't build it in a day, right? So,
or to what point? Right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, where they felt like, oh, well, we've got some safety from the elements or from things that are creeping about. I'm not sure.
I definitely think if you had a big group and you were blitzing, you could get the walls up and then put like some kind of covering over it. But as far as start to finish, there's just no way.
Building the open face in a day. Well, it's like, let's hack this, together. But not the whole cabin, no.
And real quick, thanks to everyone who have watched the videos so far. Those have been a lot of fun to shoot and cut and all that stuff.
Aaron's he gets tired of doing, cooking episodes day after day. He wants to do something, with a little bit more creative energy. So he's having a lot of fun doing that, and we enjoy making them.
Yeah. I mean, the project has been a blast all the way around.
Yeah. Right. It's just kind of like, we're still going.
Yeah, and unfortunately, YouTube doesn't like it as much as, YouTube in general. Doesn't like it as much as a cooking episode, but we're going to do it anyway.
Hey, likes it more than some.
Yeah.
That's for sure. How about some donations real quick?
Yes, please.
I only have a few, and we can just get through those real quick.
Sure.
And thanks to everyone who's donated so far.
Yeah.
Harshman Hills, thank you. They say, thank you for keeping history alive. Brian Johnson, thank you. Just says looks. Max are cool, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Were taverns or pubs open from early in the morning for breakfast, only for evening hours, or did it vary by community? And then history with Brad. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, Max, thank you for the question.
Oh, man, say real quick.
Yeah.
History with Brad on Instagram is worth checking out and giving a follow to. He's doing some really interesting stuff, and he's doing a lot of research. So go check History with Brad out on Instagram.
History with Brad all run together, right?
Yeah, on Instagram.
There we go, on Instagram. The open when, and there's some interesting, fun stuff to research. Different communities had different ideas about what happens with taverns, whether or not they should be open, who should be going to a tavern, what is the purpose of a tavern. And different communities, especially say like New England versus Pennsylvania versus Virginia, they've got different ideas about what's appropriate for public behavior in a situation like this. And some of them were specifically said during these kind of hours, local people shouldn't be here. Or they might even say a local person can come into the tavern, but they should really only spend an hour. If they're spending more time than that, that isn't appropriate. They should leave. And that was like a law or certain regulations. And taverns in certain communities, it's like these are specifically meant for people that are traveling. They don't have any other place to stay or any other place to eat necessarily. So we're going to have these taverns available as a service to people that are traveling. People have to do that. But they didn't want it to be a community gathering place or people to just sit around and drink, to excess. That definitely changed from place to place. So these different communities and where they came from in, say, Great Britain had a lot to do with what they thought was appropriate. So New England, they're definitely gonna like crack down on some of that a little bit more than other places, especially Virginia, and maybe Pennsylvania. I don't know. There's some great documentation on that and looking at the laws of those places and several books that kind of covered that topic. In different places. So it really depends on where they're at. And there's certainly sometimes when it's like, yes, the tavern's open from, 4 in the afternoon to 7, and then, sorry, you got to go home. So there's a lot of fun research on that.
I just realized History with Brad did have a question. It was like cut off on the on the thing. Any pagans running around 18th century America?
Pagans. So this is, what's going on with religion in the 18th century, especially in North America, or even if you want to look at sort of the bigger topic, or it's a lot of these topics. It's easier to document and look at what's happening in Great Britain, and then seeing what is happening in North America as a smaller but subset of that same thing. And there are. Pagan's a bigger kind of word. It could mean a lot of different things. It could mean, atheists. It could mean people with even, different religious thoughts than that. But there's definitely religious diversity in the New World, and even more so in Great Britain. Certain parts of the country are much more homogenous. So New England's going to be much more homogenous and less sort of accepting of different religious ideas than some of these other places. Pennsylvania, and where the Quakers were at, they were specifically very, very open to other religious groups in that area and letting it be more diverse, for lack of a better term. Virginia, maybe, sort of in between the two, rejecting some of that and accepting some of that. I think one of the reasons why the Quakers were a lot more accepting of that is because they were driven out of different areas. So the New Englanders, boy, they did not want Quakers. They would punish them. They would whip them. They would kick them out of town. Same thing is happening in Virginia. So there's some real interesting things that we can see happening when we study these different areas in North America in the 18th century and their reaction to these different situations. So it's very, very enlightening.
I have more, but we can go back to questions.
Let's get a few questions.
Okay. What do you plan on doing with the cabin once it's complete?
So we've gotten this question several different times. The cabin it's meant to be both an experiment in building and an experiment in experience, because this is, while not every single thing we do on the cabin and its construction can be 18th century, because we just don't have the time and labor to do everything exactly like they would have done it. But we're doing our best, and part of that is experiencing how much time it takes to do all these different little things. But another part of that cabin building is, it's to be used as a place to experience things when it's done. So there are times when, it's like, boy, to feel what I want to feel, I want to go camping, or I want to go sit in the cabin, and think about this or that. I want to be in that atmosphere while I contemplate, what these different things mean when I read them. Another part of it is using the cabin as a set for making videos, cooking videos, other kinds of videos. And then sometimes it's just there as a picture background or a place to take pictures, whether we're using it for social media or the catalog or whatnot. So we're going to use the cabin in a lot of different ways. So far, we haven't come up with, we aren't looking for, hey, do you want to come and stay in the cabin? That's not. But it's not a hotel. But other than that, yes, we're going to use it a lot.
For a long time, when we've wanted something like that for a background,
Yeah.
we've had to travel a long ways or
Right.
short ways, depending for what we're looking for. So it works out really well for us to have it close by.
Hey, Ryan.
Yo.
Can Kyle get a drink?
What's that?
Can Kyle get a drink?
Yeah.
Kyle get a drink.
Yeah, he was. I
He'll
thought you
probably
were
start
making
mumbling the questions or something.
Just a little warm.
What is
So speaking of drinks, today we're drinking a Stone Fence.
Stone fence.
Stone Fence. And so basically what's going on with this drink is there are references throughout the 18th century. And the legend goes this is what Ethan Allen and his men drank the night before they went and took Fort Ticonderoga. So they spent a night drinking these puppies, and it's.
But we haven't perfected the documentation.
No,
on that.
so it seems like it's. I don't know if it's legend. I don't know if it's actual. It's out there like crazy, but I cannot find the primary resource on it.
So what is a stone fence made out of?
So it's basically it's cider. It's hard cider with rum in it.
So two of the
real
most
simple.
popular drinks in the 18th century in North America. In England, they were really beer people. Here in North America, cider was a lot more popular, especially in New England and whatnot. And then rum is that hard liquor that is most
It's accessible.
available. So it's coming out of the West Indies, being traded up all along the coast. So while we might make whiskey, we would quite often drink imported rum because it's less expensive.
Right.
There's this, and the stone fence. What's the mix?
What do
is
you
it
mean?
Like how much of one?
Well,
and how much
because
of the
I
other?
mean, you've got a
We don't
modern
know.
take on that, but we
Okay.
don't have a historical take on
What
that.
was-
I've
what's
done
the
it to
modern
taste. I don't know because I don't care.
10 to 1.
Sure, why not?
There you go. 10 to 1.
I mean, I think that
Depends on how strong you
on
want.
these I probably did on mine. I probably
Well,
did
It's all rum.
three and a
and-
half ounces of rum to 12 ounces of cider. On yours, I did 12 ounces to maybe an ounce of rum.
That's good.
But you do see it referenced as early as 1806, 1809. I'm seeing references, not recipes, but people are
Right.
drinking them.
Right.
And then it switches to a bourbon drink around the Civil War.
Right. So that idea that you would mix one of these, the two most common things, kind of makes complete sense, whether it's early or late. There's this great, where did I get this out of? It's a book on temperance and drinking in I think Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, maybe. But one of the pages here is the moral and physical thermometer, a scale of the progress of temperance and intemperance, liquors and their effect. And it starts off here at 70 degrees, I guess, drinking water, milk and water. Then it goes, we're going down the scale. Small beer, cider and perry. So this is cider. Perry is the same thing made with pears instead. Wine, it gets more stronger. Porter, strong beer. Now, if you look at the side here, is the effects of drinking these things. The effects at the top, health and wealth and serenity of mind, reputation, long life, and happiness. That's for water and all the way to small beer. When you get to cider and perry and down to strong beer, cheerfulness, strength, nourishment, taken only at meals, of course, and in moderation. And then, of course, you get to zero. And then we get to intemperance. We've got, I don't even know what that one is. It's punch. Sorry, it's just hard to read this. Punch starts down here at -10. Toddy and crank is at -20. So toddy is, like
It's a hot beverage. It's a
Yeah.
hot mixed beverage.
well, and I think it also has to do with a certain kind of liquor, doesn't it? Anyway.
I do not think so.
Oh, okay,
But somebody
okay.
can prove me wrong.
So there's crank. I want to know what crank is. We've got to do some research on
Yeah.
crank. -30 is grog. -40 is flip and shrub. Oh yeah, I like shrub. -50 bitters infused in spirits. Hysteric water. I gotta drink some hysteric water. -60 gin, aniseed, brandy, rum, of course, whiskey in the morning. That's the worst. So here you had all these cheerfulness and stuff down here, small beer, but then you get down here at the minuses, idleness, peevishness, quarreling. We got a lot of that here. Fighting in the tavern, lying,
rude and clamorous
swearing, obscenity, swindling, perjury, burglary, and murder.
So, I just had a thought. Every toddy reference that I've ever seen,
Yeah,
that I recall,
right.
is a brown liquor.
A brown liquor.
Right. It's not clear. So, maybe there's something there. I'll keep digging.
I don't know what he means by something there. Yeah. Yep. Punishments, debt, black eyes, rags, as in you're wearing, hunger, hospital, poorhouse, jail, whipping, the hulks, as in prison hulks, Botany Bay, the gallows. That equates down here with drinking rum in the morning leads to the gallows. That's right. It's right there. It's obvious. Maybe we need some more questions. I got a little too serious.
Oh, man, rum in the morning.
It's not the morning right now, though.
It's not.
This one says, what are some regional differences in log cabin construction?
Oh, great question. And the regional differences is where the people that were building the log cabin came from, and
so not necessarily where they're building it, but
not necessarily, but where they're from, or what they're kind of taking it. You know, I mean, there are of course differences in saying, well, you're going to use the materials that are available to you. So certain places, if you don't have the right materials, you're not going to build a log cabin. It doesn't make any sense in that particular spot. Other times, I'm in a location where there are tulip logs. I'll make them out of tulip logs or some other kind of tree. Or maybe the trees you've got in your area just don't work right for it. But there are also, also has to do with where the people group that you came from. That makes sense, right?
Yes.
So, well, people from Germany that come over to North America, they're going to build a German-style log cabin. If you're from East Anglia in Great Britain, you're not going to build a log cabin because that's not what you're used to structures being made out of. And so people in New England are not going to build log cabins necessarily because they're not used to that building style. They're going to build a different, even in a temporary structure or a quick structure, they're going to build something completely different, even if they've got the perfect logs available to them. Same thing happened. People in Virginia, they might be coming from South England or Western England. Again, different building vernacular. They're going to build a different style structure,
which makes that whole Valley Forge thing really interesting. Because
yes, it does.
Got all these cultures coming together,
right?
And they basically gave them dimensions. And it's like, we'll make it like this.
Right.
But there's a lot of wiggle room in how those logs go together and stuff. So,
well, I think also part of it has to do with the timing here. So by that time, the idea of a log cabin becomes much more common to everyone in the colonies. The Scots-Irish that start coming in the early 18th century and gets very popular. People emigrating in the middle to late 18th century, they come in and they adapt the German and other sort of Northern European ideas of log cabins. They adapt them their own way. And so they build log cabins, sort of the mix between the two. They don't have as real tight construction like the Finns or the Swedish would do. They have a much looser construction, but they're building them out of the logs. So they have their own sort of take on the idea of a log cabin. And that's where we get our North American idea of log cabins from. A mix between this Northern European, German, Swiss, Finn construction and the Scots-Irish coming in and going, we're going to do it like this. And so log cabins turn into something almost completely different. I get excited about stuff like that.
This one says, how long do I have to soak salt pork to make it edible?
Depends on how long it's been in its salt. You soak it as long as it takes to get it not so salty that you can't eat it. So generally at least overnight, and it might take a good 24 hours, changing the water a couple of times to kind of soak that salt out of it. And even then, you can expect it to still be pretty salty.
This one says, "Hey y'all, would hunting and fishing techniques from the early days be something you guys would be interested in doing?"
Yes.
Newbie to the channel. Appreciate what you do.
Yes, triple yes. And
Check.
yes, we're always interested in that. It can be a little difficult to kind of tease some of that out. I mean, obviously there's some things written about that in the 18th century, but it's hard to know how that gets brought into the New World and what pieces are, because there's like sport fishing that's even in the 18th century in England, but how does that sport fishing really apply to people that are subsistence fishing? Great question, and yes, we're very interested in that topic. Before we go a lot farther, I want to touch on a couple of little things. One of the things I brought today for kind of show and tell tools, because that's what we're doing here lately, but especially the idea of tools and how we use them in our cabin project and other projects. So I'm interested in reproduction or new tools that we can use in our projects, because of course in the 18th century the tools they were using were new. But I'm also very, very interested in old tools, and whenever possible I like to use old tools in our building projects, as long as we know we aren't going to damage them. I don't want to ruin something that is an antique piece, but many times antique pieces they might as well be used. It's like a thing sitting in a museum is great to look at and it's wonderful, but it's like a dead thing, right? And when you can use an antique tool and not damage it, then it's alive. It's alive still, and it's doing its thing. And we get to kind of experience and think about doing our project with a tool that we know someone used just like we're using it 100 years ago, 150 years ago, 200 years ago. So I love the idea of working with older tools. Can you show the plumb bob picture real quick?
Just one second.
He's trying to come up with a picture for me.
Here we go.
So there's the plumb bob. This one was actually handed to me about a week ago. My wife's mother in the family. This is one of the items that has been handed down. This was used, for several generations. It's probably well over 100 years old. Got the name embossed in it, and this is even better. To have a tool not only that it's not like you go online and you buy an antique tool, but it is handed down through the family and you get to use it again. It might not have been used as a plumb bob for 50 or 100 years, but we get to use it on this project. This is just incredibly wonderful to work with. Got some other tools here, ones that purchased online. So this wonderful little hand saw that it was just perfect for what we needed. Sometimes you need a small saw instead of a great big 2-man saw or a larger frame saw. You just need something that can really get into tight spaces and do that. This is a wonderful piece, probably early 19th century. Again, you can see that it's got age, and then it's still fully functional. And if you're careful with it, it's going to be as good when you're done with it.
That one in particular saved us. I mean, we would have had to really rethink how we were making that cabin if we didn't have that saw.
Exactly. We've been doing a lot of things like pegs and other work where you need a draw knife, and especially debarking these logs. And boy, we learn which draw knives are good to use and which ones aren't. And lately, especially if you want to debark something, you would need a big draw knife that's got a lot of space between the handles so that you can get in and work on the logs. One that's got not as much space, you just can't make it work. This one is a wonderful piece, probably the one we use most often, and nice and heavy, and the handles are still in really good shape and holding up really well. The other, I don't know, it was probably 6 months ago. It could have been a year ago. We had some folks in the store, and we were talking about getting ready to work on a project. And they went home after visiting the store, and they sent us this ship's ads, and it just incredibly handy. And another one of these things where it's got a different piece of memory to it. You know this is connected to somebody that they wanted to help us out with this project, so we've got a piece like this. And then another piece that's been sort of handed down. I don't know when my father picked this one up. This is a fro for making shingles and splitting different pieces of wood. And the fros are just so handy. You hit it here and you start to split it down. You crank on the handle a little bit and it pops the wood piece off. I love pieces that, this one you can see the amount of work it's done. It's kind of flattened here on the edge. It's probably was used for years and years and then set aside. Someone painted it over and, hung it up on a wall. And then we get to resurrect it, bring it back and use it. So much fun to use tools like that. So there we are. I don't know what else I want to say about tools. You got anything to say about tools back there, Ryan?
Yeah.
He's too busy behind the bar. It's all right. That's all right. You drink your stuff back there, Ryan.
I love tools. Tools are the best.
There we go. That's
that's
all I needed, Ryan.
It is pretty interesting when I think those. So I hadn't used drawn knives very much before the last 3 years, and I've got. It's funny how because you feel like I've got 32 screwdrivers. Why do I need 32 screwdrivers? Well, they each have their job that they're best for. So the draw knife in particular, the smaller ones are great for pegs.
Yeah.
The big one that you have right there is pretty cumbersome when you're working on something little.
Yeah.
But when you get one of those little ones and you're working on taking the bark off a log, you can either use a big one and turn that log 4 times, or you can use a little one and turn that log 8 times or 16 times, depending. It's because you don't have enough.
Well, if it's too small, you can't even get in there and do anything because it's too small.
So what that brings me around to is I know that they weren't bringing a ton of tools with them when they were moving into the frontier, and I'm really surprised at. I'd like to know how they went about choosing the right one for what they needed to do.
Well, it's likely that they would have just done without. So you can use an axe if you have to debark a tree. It's a pain.
Yes.
It's difficult. But that's what you would have done. Or if you would have been smart and built it in the spring,
right?
And then you would have just peeled the bark off all in one piece.
And how many, that idea of I'm packing in tools but no handles, right?
Yeah.
I'm packing in heads essentially.
Sure.
Because I can get handle material when I get there, and that takes off the load. So it's interesting how they would go about choosing those things.
Yep. Let me move right from that to the Patreon names for this week. So Patreon is a site that helps creators like what we do here get support from people that want to give just a little bit each month. And so we've got a lot of, so it's like 575 folks help support the channel on Patreon. The new folks this week: Sterling Samuel or Samsel, maybe I wrote it down wrong. Joy Sable, Laura Cashman, Martin Ringus, Linda Hipple, Jim Sincock, Danger Guy. That's somebody you want to meet. Danger Guy, Trooper Fox, Richard Jankowski, Chris, who changed his pledge, so thank you, Chris. Matthew Benson, Amanda Klein, and they're also, and really, folks on Patreon help. It's this stable foundational base that we can use to know what we can do on the channel. Things like the cabin project are expensive, and they don't earn us as much money, for lack of a better term, on YouTube as baking an onion, right? They take a lot more time, a lot more money. So it's people on Patreon that help us say, yes, we can do a project like this and not have to worry about what YouTube does for us.
Did you say all those were from this week?
That's all this week.
Nuts. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So much.
Also, each one of these ways of giving us, supporting us, each has their own like overhead that the place takes or whatever. Another way that people support us is just plain donating straight to PayPal. This week, Mario Maka paid us that way, or helped support us that way. And I think there's a link. There's a link down in the description section. So if either Patreon or PayPal or whatever, but special thanks to Mario Maka for that. And of course, we got special like people in Super Chat to help support us.
And I'm going to jump in right now.
Yes.
If you like to get something for the money that you give to people, we have a special offer going on right now.
Yeah. So this week there's a sale on the Nutmeg coffee, right?
The Nutmeg Tavern coffee.
The Nutmeg Tavern coffee is on sale on the website right now. There's a link. Is there a link down in the description section?
Yeah, I'm putting it's in the chat.
He's going to put it in the chat. It's been really popular in the past. A lot of people love Dave Taylor special roasts us Nutmeg Tavern coffee, and it comes with nutmeg because you got to have it to go with your coffee.
And it's no joke. We sat down and actually Dave brought me 4 different blends before we settled on the one and the level of roasting that we wanted. So it was, he really worked on it, and it's perfect for nutmeg.
Right. And these guys drink a ton of coffee.
It's nuts.
I don't drink a ton of coffee, but I'll have to come up with my nutmeg tea blend.
Lots
someday.
more coffee than stone fences around here, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But yes, that is on sale right now.
Yes.
And they're dropping the link for you guys. Go buy it up because it is the perfect time of year for it.
Yeah.
And it goes quick once it's in because it's so popular.
It is. It's good stuff.
So Kyle, you have some more questions?
I have a ton more questions.
A ton.
Yeah, and I want to get to this one.
Maybe we should do a 2-hour live stream. What do you think?
Ooh.
I'm going to need some more stone fence material.
I want to get to this one because it was asked earlier in the chat.
Okay.
And to preface this question, this lady is a teacher and she's wanting to put something together for her students.
Okay.
What would you guys put in an 18th century archaeology box?
Yeah, 18th century archaeology box.
Wait, is an archaeology box... What's an archaeology box?
So it's a box full of 18th century items, but she's also putting like dirt in it and making it actually look like an archaeological site. Like she pulled it straight out of the ground for her students, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
So yeah, that's a different. There's some people that put together chests of just things, right? Like a try-on thing that they would take to a school. A lot of places, a lot of historic sites will do that. They'll put together a box of items, but an archaeological box is a little bit different. So if you're looking at things you're going to dig up, that's going to be different.
That's gonna
So
be fun.
a lot of the other ones, the other boxes, and it's a great idea too. They'll have things like an inkwell and a quill pen, and then they'll put some like clothing pieces in it and a hat, but this is a little bit different. And what are you going to find in a dig?
Yep. That's a really cool idea.
Right. So usually there are things that aren't wood. Wood doesn't last. Clothing doesn't last. So you end up with metallic items, ceramic items a lot. Yeah. So.
And maybe not full ceramic.
Right. Exactly. You're going to find all these little pieces of pottery.
If you were going to find something that was whole, it would be a pipe bowl for sure.
Yeah.
She was asking how to strategically bust up one of our pipes so she could do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
But there are plenty of whole pipe bowls that have been found from the 18th century. Right. So it's not uncommon it wouldn't be wrong to have one that was whole.
Yeah.
And then when the kids are done with it, she can put that stem in there, go home and smoke that puppy.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Hey kids.
Let's smoke some tobacco when the children aren't around.
So coins, definitely. That is a must-have, especially small coinage. A sixpence. Generally, you don't find great big. Somebody who loses a crown piece. It's like I dropped a $100 bill. Oh, don't worry about it. You're definitely going to go looking for that. So you're going to find small coinage. Half pennies and farthings and maybe a sixpence or something like that.
Buttons like crazy.
Buttons, very popular. Little pieces of, many times, little buckles you will find in there. Also, lots of broken pottery. Locks. Yeah, you'll find pieces of locks. You'll find pieces of pots and pans that have broken and they've discarded them.
a ring or a locket or something like that.
Yeah,
some
little
type
pieces of jewelry. Definitely, I mean, it's like buttons are one of those perfect things, especially military buttons, because it locates this regiment was here from this time period to that time period. So when you're in that layer of, digging, this must have been 1730 or 1780 when this regiment was encamped at this fort. That happens a lot. In the pottery pieces or the pipes, they're the pipes that have the reed stems and the ceramic heads.
Yeah.
Those you might find in one piece or just a chunk broken out, whatever. And then you'll find lots and lots from the time period of the full clay stemmed pipes. And those are much more easily broken. And of course, once you get past a certain couple inches of pipe stem, you throw the whole thing out. So there's some places where you'll find lots and lots of pipe stems. I think there's even a place where they were doing some digging at Williamsburg, and like the whole area was just little chunks of pipe stem. Like maybe it was part of the manufactory. They said, what are we going to do? We're just going to throw all these out and just use them as sort of a gravel base. They had so many of those.
There's always like those weird things that are hard to, you need them in your pocket, like a pipe tamp or a whisk and pick.
Yeah, pocket knives.
Right,
yeah.
something like that they just have a way of falling out.
Right. Well, and that's one of the reasons why you see them in privies. It's like,
sure,
you sit down and stuff falls out of your pocket, and well, that's the end of that. You're not going to go looking for that. Broken glass. Glass bottles and different pieces. It depends on, of course, this also tells you exactly how rich or poor a particular area is. Do you find redware broken? Do you find china pieces broken? Do you find glassware broken? It tells you so much.
That's a really fun project.
Yep.
That's going to be great.
Yeah, it does sound like a lot of fun.
Are there any plans to do videos or tavern talks with experts on the 18th century sewing, spinning, weaving, etc.?
Yeah, I've been in discussion with some folks about those various subjects. I'm really excited about what we're going to work up. It's going to be great.
Yeah, we're trying to work up some different processes or ways how do we bring those people into, say, the tavern or different places? Do we have to travel there? Can we bring them in on a Skype call? Blah, blah, blah. So we're working on all that kind of stuff.
How would you guys feel about that if we could bring people in on a Skype call and say it wasn't the whole time, but it was like maybe half of the time, or it was the whole time? I don't know. What do you guys think? Let us know.
Is audio going to be good enough? Do we need to bring in, the talking head? It's quality issues. We've got lots of questions about whether or not that is something that's going to work.
Hey, we need to show that one other thing.
I got the one other thing here. Got this beautiful little box in just the other day for the leader of the Nutmeg men at the Nutmeg Inn or Tavern in this case. This is from Tom and Karen, and they sent in this very, very, you got the little picture of this one, Aaron?
Yep.
There it is. It's a pin that was made in 1935 for the tricentennial of Connecticut. So it's 1635 to 1935 tricentennial, and it's a little sort of badge. And look at what's hanging down underneath it. Isn't this perfect? It's a nutmeg badge. I'm thinking about making some of these.
It's really cool.
Maybe we'd make our own pewter one.
Nutmeg cufflinks.
Yeah, nutmeg cufflinks. No. I'm thinking about making a little. I'll make one that's like this with a pewter top, and then we could hang nutmegs from it, or nutmeg earrings for people. Wouldn't that be cool?
Wow.
Hey,
I love that.
We're starting to kind of run out of time. I need to get some.
I hate
Plus,
the time goes too
nutmeg
fast.
earrings and half the people left
Yeah.
the chat.
Yeah, what? I gotta go. So special thanks to Tom and Karen for sending this in. So wonderful. Thank you, Tom and Karen.
Yes, that's so cool. I can't believe that's an actual thing.
Yeah.
And it's going to be more of a
I
thing.
thought someone made
No,
it specific.
no.
That's a real badge.
A real thing, and it's from
That's
1935. Heck, pretty soon it'll be 100 years old all by itself.
That's crazy.
And of course, they knew how important nutmeg was back then.
Oh yeah. All right. Let's do a few of these. Well, a lot of these donations.
So after donations, we'll probably head into the lightning round. Folks.
Probably.
Oh boy!
Fire in those short
Get
questions.
ready.
This is from Amber Crystal Daughter. More protein money for the cabin crew. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jody Carruthers, I believe. Thank you for all you do, from a fellow Hoosier, born and raised in Elkhart, Indiana. Right on.
Yes.
Thank you.
We just had somebody from Elkhart in the store
Yeah.
yesterday.
There you go.
Not very far away.
UP Gardner, thank you. Angie978, thank you. Burning Hearth Homestead. As a couple living off the grid, your videos have taught us a lot of great tips and skills. Thanks.
Yes.
Awesome.
Thanks for watching. Dennis Frederick, thank you. Dennis likes Genesee Country Museum. Okay.
Oh yeah. Genesee Country Village. Yeah.
MJ Lako, please join your fellow YouTubers on the Team Trees fundraiser to plant 20 million trees by 2020. Love your content.
20
You've
million
planted some
trees.
in your day, John.
Oh, yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
This is from David Rozzoni. I'm sorry, David here again from last stream. Still watching your stream while in the wild. Hello all.
Oh yeah.
That's so
Awesome.
Carlos Lizardi. Hey guys, was there any meat imported or exported to the colonies in this time aside from stockfish? Nice donation from Logan C. Thank you. Afternoon, everyone. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. I've turned more coworkers into the channel.
Yes.
And they love it like I do. Awesome.
Great.
If the weather permits, I'll try to get outside to take photos of the mallets this weekend since I'll be off finally.
Yay.
Oh, great.
And then one more from David Dinelli. Thank you. How long is sauerkraut supposed to last? I just tried some. I made the making fresh sauerkraut video that was 3 months old, and while it didn't kill me, nor did it cause me distress, it sure didn't taste like I thought.
Oh.
Well,
Thank you.
that's funny. That sauerkraut doesn't taste like what you typically get for sauerkraut anyways.
Right.
Yeah, I know that we were eating it 3 months later, and it was fine.
Yeah, sauerkraut's it's minimally good for it. 3-6 months, probably a year, easy. Yeah, the sauerkraut, if you make it, it's alive. The sauerkraut you go to the store, it's dead.
Yeah.
They can't sell a live sauerkraut because, well, people would get mad at them. They would open it up. This is alive. It's still doing things. But we want...
It's moving.
Yeah, it's moving. It's growing. We want to eat a live sauerkraut with good, yummy bacteria things going on in there.
The problem that most people seem to have with when they make that recipe is there's more salt than they're used to, and so it's not tasting like what you get at a restaurant or in the store.
Right, and just like we talked about in the video, you can rinse it.
Sure.
And bring some of that salt back out of it so that it isn't, and then it's still wonderful and good. So we had the question about imported meat, and in this time period in North America, we were meat exporters. We were famous for shipping off fish, salted fish, and salted pork, salted beef. We were probably, at least as toward, later on in the 18th century, we were meat exporters, not necessarily meat importers. So maybe, you're going to bring in the stockfish because we don't have this same kind of place to do stockfish. But even then, I've heard of people talking about the frames and all that you would do sort of stockfish type things even in North America. So I'm not that. I would say that at least in general, we're exporters, not importers of meat products in that time period. There we go.
That's all you had.
Yeah,
Lightning
Everything
round.
else was just like a
everything else was a thank
Wow.
you. So thank you.
You guys are making it easy on John today.
Right.
Kyle.
Well, prepare yourself.
Let's
then.
I'm gonna take a deep breath and go.
Wait, are we in lightning round right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you have enough to fill up? Like, how much time do we have left?
probably like 2 minutes.
Oh, that's it.
2
Okay.
minutes.
We can stay a minute
Got
or
it.
two
Got
later.
it.
Can
Got
you
it.
fill up 10 minutes of lightning round?
10 minutes? I don't know about that, but
We gotta fix the clock up there.
That'd be a fun try.
I go
It
through
would
the
be.
time
Clock
warp.
is like 5 minutes slow.
Go through the time warp
that's
in
what's
this.
screwing with me.
Yeah, so we see it's like it's like the wormhole's messed up. Anyway, go ahead.
well, there goes those 2 minutes.
Go.
Okay, here we go. When were building bricks standardized?
Oh, standardized. Oh, probably in the 19th century. We're gonna have very irregular bricks. Although, I don't know. I think there was some standardization of bricks in Great Britain in in the 18th century time period.
Lightning round.
I'm sorry.
What?
18th century.
Were tavern robberies common?
Yes.
Are you planning a winter overnight in the cabin?
Oh, you know it. Yes.
Do you sell the glassware you are using?
I wish.
We sell the Nutmeg Tavern mugs that the bartender.
It's not
is
glassware.
using.
I think we just have a few bottles now. We're having trouble with glass right now.
Every time I try to get people to go to the website to buy stuff, you talk it down.
Lightning round.
What name will you give the cabin once it's finished? Will you name
We'll
it?
get back to you on that.
Yeah, we're going to have to come on. Okay, you guys, tell us what do you think?
Oh, this is going to be
It's a
scary
contest.
Here we go.
now. Look out.
Did people in the 18th century make their own black powder, or was it mainly traded?
Nah, most people are not going to be making it. It's not that easy.
And my last one. Have any of you suffered any injuries during the cabin building process?
Yes,
Ryan
I
almost
did.
cut off my finger.
No,
Yes,
I-
Ryan almost cut
Ryan almost cut off his finger.
I touched each one of their fingers with one tooth of a saw blade at different times.
Yeah, only
Think it
because
was
we
some
moved
other
our
But
hands.
blade.
It was
it's not
multiple
my
teeth.
fault they're putting their hands in the wrong spot.
My hand was way out of the way.
John had a twisted ankle.
Yeah. I came off the top and jumped down and hit a log. But
I had a smashed finger, but it didn't slow me down for more than 5 minutes. That's been the extent.
we've been very fortunate with that. We've used a lot of very sharp tools, and we have not had any. I mean, we got some back, but
Yeah, poor Brandon.
yeah,
I got a
but-
headache looking through all the footage. Actually.
Aaron's wrist has gotten a little sore holding those cameras.
Yeah, that mouse hand. Oh, it's hurting.
Gimbals, get heavy. One more donation, then we're gonna get out of here. Keltoid 5, thank you.
Keltoid.
Never knew
Thank
how
you.
strong the Townsend's community was until last live stream. You guys are doing great work. Thank you for that.
Thanks
Thank
a lot,
you.
Keltoid 5.
And again, we are still missing
Yep.
Little Bunny Sunshine.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
I have to say that
yeah.
that night, I couldn't sleep that night.
Yeah.
I was visiting some folks in Louisville, Kentucky, and it was a new house, and I just couldn't sleep. So I went and I looked at all the folks that were leaving her
Yeah.
notes,
Yeah.
and man, that was amazing.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for the community here and all the folks that come into the Nutmeg Tavern. You guys are a special group, so thank you for all that you do for the community, for what happens here. It's I'm incredibly blessed to be enjoying this time with you. Again, special thanks to the Patreon folks and everyone who supports us in every way, whether it's PayPal straight up, Super Chat. You watch our videos, people buy them, merch. It makes
or buying coffee.
Buying coffee.
Aaron's gonna drop the link one more time
right.
for everybody.
Buying coffee. All those things help support what we do here, and it's not just what we do here. This channel does things I never imagined it doing for other people. Whether people are watching the videos and it helps them in just material ways, mental ways. I am just amazed every time we see comments about that, and it's not just people in the United States; it's people all around the world. So, again, it's not like I set out to do this thing, but you have done this thing. So, thank you, everyone, for all you do, and thanks for watching today.